God goes up with shouts of joy. The Lord goes up with trumpet blasts. Here we celebrate the Ascension. And there is a sense in the way the church celebrates that this rising of Jesus, not from the dead this time, but his ascending into heaven, is greeted by the exaltation, the acclaim of the angels and all the saints. We hear in our opening prayer that we also have to remember that the ascension of Christ is for our glory as well. And that where the head has gone in glory, the body, us, must follow in hope. And isn't that what we hear in the gospel? The apostles, having witnessed Christ's ascending in glory, begin to do the work of Christ evermore. And as he sits at the right hand of his heavenly Father, men and women of goodwill go and heal and preach and teach and bring the faith across the known world. It's what we're all called to do and to be. When he was born in 1848, John O'Neill, the son of Irish immigrants in Pennsylvania, seemed an unlikely evangelist and apostle. Born with club feet into a coal mining family, it was presumed he wouldn't live very long, but he did. And he tried his hand in the coal mines, but nothing quite worked there. And by the time he was 14, he had determined he had a religious vocation, but not many communities, if any, wanted him. And by the time he was in his 20s, he had become a cobbler, a shoemaker, already in California, thousands of miles away from where he started. When he heard of my own religious community, the University of Notre Dame and the Congregation of Holy Cross, and he was told maybe they'll give you a shot. And so he came, and he was allowed to enter, and he had a deep and driving devotion to being a missionary. And in the time after he joined, it was about the time that my religious community founded the Catholic Church, really, in Bangladesh, was the first community to go and try to bring the faith to what is now Bangladesh, East Bengal, part of India, and then part of Pakistan. And Brother Columba, as he was now known, asked the Superior General, could he go? And the Superior General looked at him and said, no. You stay in your little workroom and make shoes. And a second time he asked. And a third time he asked. And a second time and a third time. He was told no. Stay where you are. Do what you do. And then he heard of Damien of Molokai, the Dutch priest who was helping the lepers in Hawaii. And he understood that this must be what God was saving him for. He couldn't go to Bangladesh because he had to go and help with the lepers in Hawaii. So we asked another time, can I now go do this? And the Superior General looked at him and said, no. You will make shoes. And for the rest of his life, Brother Columba, in a little workroom at the back end of the community house at the University of Notre Dame, made shoes. But he also made shoes for children with crippling issues in the area. And he developed a deep devotion to the Sacred Heart. We hear in the gospel of this going out and proclaiming the gospel to all the nations, and healing and curing and handling snakes and drinking poison. But St. Paul tells us something slightly different about what the lived faith might look like. Bear with one another charitably. Be completely selfless, gentle, and patient. For those with a burning desire to serve God that hardly seems what they might be called to. But God is clear. Yes, the good news has to be proclaimed. Yes, healing must be brought to the sick and comfort to the broken. But not everyone is going to do it in bold and dynamic ways. Some are going to reach out and comfort family members and friends. Some are going to have a listening heart that understands the traumas and the trials somebody is going through before they speak it. Somebody is going to have the gentle touch that brings a sense of humanity and hope into the life of someone who feels alone and abandoned. And it doesn't require getting onto a ship or a plane or risking one's life to prove how much one loves God. Some people have to do that. Most of us are left here behind. Healing in other ways, through ordering the right tests. Comforting in other ways, through educating those who are locked in their brain and need to be brought out. Brother Columba made shoes. And in his deep devotion to the Sacred Heart, started telling people to pray to the Sacred Heart, and he made these little badges. We've all seen them, the little felt badges with cheap pictures of the Sacred Heart, and he had some of the Immaculate Heart. And he invited people to pray when they were suffering. And he told them to do things that couldn't possibly help, like put the badge over their bad heart and ask for healing, and to do it 5 times a day for 9 days. By the time Brother Columba died in 1923, there were thousands of known cures of men and women who had no other hope, of children who had limbs straightened and disease processes overcome in ways that could only be described as miraculous, in ways we wish would happen more often. But at the university, which is known for people of great intellect, this simple, humble brother who made shoes brought healing and hope to people around the country and around the world. They say that when he died, people came as soon as they heard he had died. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds passing by his coffin. And the superior general at the time said, probably only a few were praying for him. Most were praying for themselves, asking for one last healing. He had no great regard for his own capacities. Not long before he died, he knew he was failing. He said, I'm going to die soon, and perhaps the student newspaper, it was a university, perhaps the student newspaper will write something about me. They'll probably say, there was a shoemaker. He had a devotion to the Sacred Heart. There may have been cures. In our lives, each and every one of us are called to be the hope of the body that follows the head to glory, if we live our life, if we take on our responsibilities, if we trust that we have a mission, God will be served, glory will be proclaimed, and the greatness of God, the goodness of God, will pour forth into our world.